Kyle Tucker, who is maybe the most attractive position player left in the free agent market, signs with the LA Dodgers, as you predicted, Nolan McGraw. 4 years, $240 million. So that's $60 million a year. Some of it deferred, $30 mil? But still, the team that just churns out money like they print it themselves. They signed Edwin Diaz in the offseason, the top relief pitcher available. They already have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman. I mean, they've got some big-ticket guys financially on that team. And they go out and pay Kyle Tucker. And Kyle Tucker is a hell of a player. Last couple of years hasn't been all that awesome. And on top of it, it's been kind of hurt a little bit. But when you print your own baseball money, you can just go out and outbid everybody else. Who offered him $50 million a year? Was it Toronto or the Mets?
The Mets, yep. 200 total.
Toronto was in the bidding. And, hey, look, say what you will about the Blue Jays, who made it to the World Series last year and lost in 7 games, should have won it. They went out and got Dylan Cease, gave him over $200 million, whatever it was. I mean, they are trying to spend money. They tried to get Ohtani, tried to get Corbin Burns last offseason. They're in it to win it, financially and on the field. But the Dodgers, and look, I'm old enough, Nolan, and I want to go old guy card, but this is one of the advantages of being an old geezer. For the advent of free agency, when they used to have these re-entry drafts, for instance, the first year of free agency was after the 76 season. And the Orioles had Bobby Grich, Reggie Jackson, Wayne Garland, 3 of the most attractive free agents in the market. But teams had to pick them in order to bid for them. Like, hey, the Expos have bid for Reggie Jackson, and the Angels bid for Bobby Grich, and all this. And like 6 or 7 teams could bid for your services. It was a crazy, stupid, nonsensical thing, but it had never been done before. But as free agency progressed, now approaching 50 years, the Yankees were always the team that would go out and who signed Reggie Jackson, signed Don Gullett that offseason. Goose Gossage the year after that. They would name it Dave Winfield on down the line. Garrett Cole, recent vintage. Trying to give Cody Bellinger money. He won't take it. What the Dodgers are doing now is obliterating what George Steinbrenner did in his heyday. Now, if George Steinbrenner was still alive, would we see a different result? I don't know. That's up to, speculation and, who knows? He's not going down quietly. I mean, Steinbrenner's son, and I apologize. I don't know what Hank or Hal.
Yeah.
He's been crying broke for the last couple of years. But the Dodgers screw it. Mm-hmm. We'll get whatever we want. So what they're doing in free agency and the monies that they're handing out to insert top free agent of that class, they're just going to blow you away financially, and they're making you an offer you can't refuse financially, and it's out of control. Now, do I hate it? If the Orioles were in this position, no. Be loving every minute of it. But they're not. Orioles are competitive this offseason, and they're not done yet, which we'll get to. But they're just playing by the rules. I guess the big thing is, Nolan, moving to this next CBA, the owners want the rules to change and want them to change in a big way.
Right. Because even if you look at, all these numbers are just ridiculous at this point. But the luxury tax stuff, that they set the record for this past year, they got hit with 110% penalty or whatever it is, all-time record, something like that. And now with this Tucker deal, they said when it's all said and done, they're essentially paying double that salary when you account for luxury tax. The penalties for this stuff, besides the financial ramifications, which means absolutely nothing for a team that, like you said, prints money, draft pick loss They don't seem to care. I mean, I think they're losing their second, third, fourth, fifth, maybe even sixth highest picks in this upcoming draft. What do they care?
Right.
Farm system isn't how they build their team. They just spend money. And they haven't really had a big contract blow up in their face either. And maybe something like that would have deterred them, but probably not. You know, you just chalk it up to law of averages and keep swinging and keep spending. It's worked for them clearly. The fact that they've won back-to-back World Series, they were already the betting favorite to three-peat. This only probably increases the odds even more. It's a tough time. And what makes it even worse is this looming 2027 CBA negotiation, which is all but a guarantee to be a lockout at this point. And way more strife than what we encountered just a couple years ago. So, I mean, we could be looking at major parts of the 2027 season lost, canceled. Are we going to have to play a shortened, abbreviated season? What is that going to do? Play a season at all? I mean, everything's on the table at this point. I mean, all bets are off. Where I would start, because I don't know if a cap is realistic as much as it's probably necessary at this point. I just don't know how you go about implementing one when one team is ballooned all the way up here. How do you set a ceiling? And even then, it wouldn't really have an impact probably for a couple of years then, because the ceiling would have to be higher than where the Dodgers are currently at. You couldn't set it lower and say, we're forcing you to cut players. I don't know. It just, there's so many variables here. Where I would start is getting rid of this deferred payment stuff. Now, in Kyle Tucker's case, it's not a lot. $30 million of this deal is deferred. That still brings his average annual value down for present day to what, $57 million? Oh, it's still higher than
poor guy
Juan Soto. But he's getting all his money in the long run. The Shohei Ohtani one is where the deferred payments got a little crazy, because that was almost like 80% of his contract. Just give it to me down the road. I'll make my money off endorsements right now and whatever, signing bonus stuff, blah, blah, blah. That's where you're working within the rules. It's a lot. Every team has that luxury. They're able to do that. The Orioles.
Davis.
Well, I mean, this is even more ridiculous than that. And from a player perspective, Ohtani, and in the case of the Dodgers, we think about, I want that money down the road. California state tax is absurd, especially for someone in that tax bracket. In Ohtani's case, when I'm done playing and I choose to go live back in Japan or elsewhere in the United States, I'm going to get that money at a much more affordable tax rate. So it makes sense for the player's standpoint. For guys like us, it makes your head spin. I don't know what you do. I'd start with the deferred money. Let's get some jurisdiction in on that and go from there. But as much as everyone wants a salary cap, I just don't know how you create one.
Well, NBA, NFL do it, and they work fine within the confines of that. Right. There are ways to circumvent.
But the precedent was set decades and decades and decades ago.
Well, it's the Larry Bird exemption kind of started things for the NBA, NHL. I mean, the highest paid hockey player annually makes as much as the best closer in baseball. You know what I mean? It's they dwarf. I don't know.
Point is, it's not up for guys like you and me to figure out how that works.
I can't count my own money.
Yes.
Nolan McGraw to that point, but I think there is a way for baseball theoretically to come up with a cap. There has to be a floor. You can't just be the Royals, for instance, and sit back and watch all these other teams spend money, and then you sign these big TV contracts and all of this, whatever. You tend to benefit by Pirates not spending any money. Hey, you want to taste slice of the pie when we sign these big contracts with the networks and streaming services or whatever. You got to contribute to the cause here a little bit as well. But baseball, their players' union, we know baseball players, current and old school, who were part of the advent of free agency. There's no way in hell they're going to acquiesce to a salary cap. Because for years, baseball, Tom Seaver had a bad year, they'd take money away from him. They would punish you for not having, you're supposed to be the Cy Young Award winner. They go to arbitration and win with the arbitrator, Reggie Jackson, Charlie Finley, famously trying to bone him out of his deal. Now these are fully guaranteed contracts, and they fought for years. Kurt Flood started it. Fought for years to get this level of strength, and there's no way they're going to give it up.
Well, let me ask you this, and it's clearly not an even trade, but you mentioned the salary floor. The players should be in favor of that because that's more money for everybody.
No doubt about it.
But is that enough to accept then a cap? Well, you can't have one without the other. I agree with you there. It's a package deal. But yeah, I mean, what was the story with Bryce Harper getting in Rob Manfred's face last year when he came to visit clubhouses across Major League Baseball, and he was already whipped up about, hey, 2 years down the road, you try to implement that salary cap, we're not going for it. Insert expletives here and there.
Basically threw him out of the clubhouse.
So it's easy for a guy like Bryce Harper to say.
Who's got his money.
Or would be, if he was a free agent looming in the next couple of years in his prime, would be in line for Kyle Tucker money, Shohei Ohtani money. I really don't know. It's such a bad spot right now. And then not just the financial trickle-down effect, but the possibility of a lost season, what this does for the free agency market next year. And a team like the Orioles, tie this back in locally, who are looking to come back up on the ascent and compete for a World Series, the pressure's even more on for 26. Not saying you got to win it this year, but it'd be nice if we could get it done before all hell breaks loose. I'll say that.
Yeah, well, I've lived through two lengthy strikes. 1981, where they had 2 seasons. They had the first half, which is interrupted by the 81-day strike. Then they had the second half. The Orioles were the best team in baseball in 1981, but they finished a game out, so they didn't play a full 162. And those Orioles with, Cal wasn't even there yet. He made his debut in 81, but it's still Eddie and Singy and Bunbury and Palmer and Dennis Martinez and Flanagan and Earl Weaver. Their calling card was in September, the Orioles truck you. And they're going to catch you and eventually pass you. That strike cost them the pennant. And then in 94, they were 2.5. That was the first year of the wild card. They were 2.5 out of the wild card, and Angelos had spent a ton of dough that offseason. Signed Palmeiro, signed Lee Smith, signed Chris Sabo, signed Sid Fernandez. I was working at the Camden Club, and I was there when Will Clark came in for his free agent visit, like his recruiting visit. He signed with Texas, and that opened the door for Palmeiro, who was the incumbent at Texas at the time, to come to Baltimore. And Palmeiro had one of the greatest 5-year runs, if not the greatest, in Orioles history. But they were really good. And the strike hit mid-August with them 2.5 out of the wild card, but playing their best baseball. Messina was had won 16 games by then. Then in they finally agreed they cost the World Series, the playoffs. Tony Gwynn was hitting 400 or close to it. A couple of guys were close to maybe breaking Roger Maris's record then. Expos had the best record in baseball. It was a great season that was interrupted by the strike. Then they didn't get a deal done until late in the spring training, so that cost 15, 20 games. In 95, Messina won 19. The strike cost Mike Messina 2 20-win seasons, which he didn't accomplish until, his last year in Major League Baseball. But I guess my long-winded point is, if it gets to the strike or lockout, it's going to be when the Orioles have a good team, and it's going to cost them historically like it did in 81. And in 1994, they sucked at 95. They underachieved. But 2 teams that were worthy of the playoffs didn't get to the playoffs because of the strikes then. This is going to be an owner-mandated lockout this time,
right?
It seems.
Well, now here's the question. If you're the Dodgers, what's stopping you to go sign Framber Valdez?
Why not?
You go all out for the three-peat and then take your repercussions on the other end. If I'm looking for a sense of hope here, for not just the financial side of things, the lockout, for the people saying that the competitive side of it, because how much crap did Kevin Durant get when he went to the Warriors? And he's still getting crap for it.
Yeah, a ton.
Right? But how come Kyle Tucker's not getting that? Shohei Ohtani didn't even get it for joining a team that already had multiple MVPs on the roster. Blake Snell last year. Nobody's really mentioning that. But if I'm looking for a bit of hope, yes, the Dodgers won the last 2 World Series. But this last one this past summer, it took it to Game 7 and extra innings, right? So the Toronto very well could have won that series.
Yeah.
The year prior, all right, they made quick work of the Yankees in the series, but the NLCS still went 6 games. Division round, the Padres almost knocked them out there. So it's not like they're building these super teams that when they get to the playoffs, they just sweep. I think that you'd see that more in like basketball. Super teams just run through a team like nothing. But in baseball with the variables, pain doesn't automatically guarantee you the World Series.
Well,
that's the only saving grace here.
It guarantees they'll be in the playoffs, though.
Yeah.
And they'll be one of the teams that has a chance to win it. Well, and now we're already talking. I was reading. We got to get a break. I got it. That now Arizona, San Francisco, they're competing to finish second. San Diego. It's already a foregone conclusion in the eyes of people that the Dodgers are going to win the division and maybe do it in a cakewalk because Arizona, they just traded for Arenado, and San Diego might be looking for more stuff in regards to the rotation. They're going to win the division, but they're going to be in the playoffs. And anything can happen in 3 out of 5 sort of series, and when you got to go 3 layers to get there. If you're a wild card team, it's even more than that. But they're going to be there. That's right. The thing. If they crater with this payroll, then some people might take great joy in it.
I do think it's
they got so much depth. It's like,
this past summer, we're talking about the Dodgers in the regular season like they were going to crumble. I mean, they only won 93 games. I say only that's fair to say only for that roster. Yes, 93 games. But entering September, they had a chance to lose the division. Padres were battling with them, I think. So, and you could say they were both flawed teams, as crazy as that is. 2 years ago, starting pitching was terrible. And this past year, the bullpen was a complete liability. Yep. So you spent all this money and you still had glaring weaknesses.
Still won the World Series, though. At the end of the
results.
Day. Are you mad at the Dodgers? Yes or no? No. They're just playing by the rules.
Within the rules.
I mean, it's just, like you said, if they sign Valdez tomorrow, we're going to be stunned, probably pissed, because we want the Orioles to do that, but you get the point.